But the more voters see of the Trump agenda, the less they like it. A spate of new polls are all showing the same thing, that the only president who is less popular than Donald Trump at this point in their term is, well, Donald Trump during his first administration. An ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll released yesterday puts Trump's approval at 39%. That's the lowest of all recent polls. An NBC News poll puts his approval rating at 45%. Voters appear to be deeply frustrated with Trump's handling of the economy and the chaos that's been caused by the Trump tariffs. A New York Times poll released just Friday reveals that half of all voters think that Trump, who ran on a platform of economic growth, has actually made the economy worse. But this feedback has not yet broken through at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The Atlantic reports that during an interview, quote, Trump pushed back on the notion, popular among some Wall Street analysts, that financial turmoil, plummeting markets, the threat of a recession, a weakened dollar would cause him to roll back his tariff policies. It always affects you a little bit, he said, but there's no red line, no certain number at which he would feel compelled to change course. That's right. Despite the fact that he has already paused his so-called reciprocal tariffs, Trump is actually doubling down on tariffs and trade wars, arguably one of his most unpopular policies. He says he has no red line, that there's no point at which he confronts so much resistance that he would feel compelled to back down. That take no prisoners, regret nothing approach is how the Trump administration has tackled almost everything on its agenda, from mass deportations to targeting law firms to gutting federal agencies from USAID to the Department of Education. When asked about the difference between the first Trump term and this second term, Trump told The Atlantic, quote, the first time I had two things to do, run the country and survive. I had all these crooked guys. And the second time, I run the country and the world. Spoken like a true wannabe autocrat. A New York Times poll found that 54% of Americans think that Trump has overreached, and that number includes 16% of Republicans. An unpopular president with an unpopular agenda seems like a golden opportunity for the opposition party. But how will the Democrats seize the moment? And how will they fight back against Trumpism? That remains a fraught conversation even within the party. And that means it's an opening for J.B. Pritzker. At a speech in New Hampshire on Sunday, the Illinois governor called for Democrats to, quote, fight everywhere and all at once. Take a listen.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
And that is where we begin today, with managing editor of the Bulwark and MSNBC contributor Sam Stein. Also joining us is former Democratic Senator and MSNBC political analyst Claire McCaskill and former Republican Congressman David Jolly. David recently registered as a Democrat and is considering a run for the Florida governorship. Sam, let me start with you. What's your take on where things stand with the voters and their views of Donald Trump just 100 days in?
Well, I think it's fairly clear at this point that he's lost a lot of ground with a lot of voters on a lot of issues, frankly. He didn't have a particularly high approval rating when he entered office, but he had one higher than he had any time in his first term. And he had a particularly high approval rating on his key issues, which were immigration and, to a degree, cost of living. And what we've seen in 100 days is that he's just seen that whittle away. First on cost of living and tariffs, second on immigration. And the only conclusion that you can have watching it all is that a lot of this is just self-inflicted, right? The Liberation Day was a disastrous economic policy. I think since then he's tried to clean it up, but the damage is largely done. Psychologically, the markets are not happy. Voters do not feel like the cost of living has come down. And in fact, they're very worried, according to every economic metric, about the future. And then on immigration, he's turned a debate that he was winning, which was a debate about border and deportation. And he's made it into a debate that he's losing, which is about the rights and due process granted to people in this country, even those who were here illegally. And so he doesn't have a good hand to play like he did at the beginning. And if anything, he's making it worse.
So, Sam, can I follow up on that? You're right. He is bungling even the issues that he was leading on before, like immigration, by denying due process rights, deporting children. But he's also saying things like, I rule the country and I rule the world, which seems very autocracy forward. Is this bluster, or is this going to be the defining ethos of his term, and it won't matter what the voters think?
I've given up trying to figure out what goes on inside every utterance Donald Trump makes. It could be bluster, but it could just be how he thinks, right? I think ultimately the first question is, why did voters sour on him? And I think to a degree it's because of that bluster and those comments, but mainly it's because, in my estimation, it's because he hasn't delivered on the things he said he would, right? I mean, he said he would bring down the cost of goods. He said he would have your energy bill. He said he would solve the war in Ukraine within a year. He said he would have mass deportations. On all of those, including the mass deportations, he has come up short of where he set his own metrics. And that mass bluster, which seemed fine when those metrics seemed achievable, now seems detached and scary for those who wanted him to actually make change.
So, David Jolly, I'm going to harp on this for a while. I don't think I've ever heard an American say something like, I rule the country and I rule the world. Am I missing something? Is this something that American presidents routinely say, or does this sound like something else to you?
I think it sounds like something else, and put me in the camp that after 8 to 10 years of Donald Trump being in the political scene, we have to take him at his word. When he suggests he might run for a third term, that's a possibility, or he rules the world, we should believe that that reflects his ethos. But I think where the disconnect is, to your point, Melissa, why are his numbers in at 39% if he portrays such strength? It's because he never actually had that mandate and that strength. Sam's right that he's lost a lot of ground, but he didn't have a lot of ground to start with. He was elected by a minority coalition in the country. I know it was very close, but more Americans in November voted for someone else for president than those who voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump came in under 50%. He declared a mandate. He liked to brand a mandate around his election, but he never had one. And so rather than step out cautiously and say, what do I do with my 49% coalition? How do I grow it? How do I try to govern the entire country? He doubled down on what divides the country and, frankly, on economic policies that simply don't work. He is ignorant when it comes to trade policy. He's demonstrating that. He's injected economic insecurity into people's personal lives. And so that fragile 49% coalition he had is showing a natural erosion. And so this question then of a man who thinks he rules the world and rules the country, is he capable of self-correcting? He's suggesting maybe he's not.
Well, and this would seem, Claire, to be a great opening for the opposition party. Bad poll numbers definitely matter, and it shows that there is popular opposition to Donald Trump. Might that shape the administration's actions and priorities? Possibly. But relatedly, is there an opportunity here for the Democrats to take advantage of a kind of piling on effect where people and institutions are more likely to oppose and resist an unpopular president rather than a popular one?
Yeah, I think part of the problem you have is there's a wealth of issues to attack Donald Trump on. And the lack of organization in terms of focusing on various areas is being interpreted, I believe, perhaps correctly by the Democratic base, that the Democratic elected officials aren't doing anything. But you've got some Democratic officials going after him on prices. You've got some going after him on his executive orders and pushing the envelope there. You've got some going after him, a lack of due process on immigration. You've got some going after him on what's going on college campuses and the defunding of medical research in the country, and on and on and on. Nobody's even getting around to the fact that this is the most corrupt president in American history. He's auctioning off for his own personal gain access to the presidency through all of his crypto stuff and selling things and making money off of it. So you've got so much there, and the base is so frustrated that he's doing this and that he got away with so much, and he's back in the Oval Office, that they see this scattershot effort as ineffective. And I think over time, a leader, whether it's Chris Murphy or whether it's Cory Booker or whether it's J.B. Pritzker or whether it's Gretchen Whitmer or Josh Shapiro, I think, or all the other talented people we have waiting to fill in this leadership vacuum, they're going to be battling for the attention of the American public. And in that process, the one that's the most organized, the most forceful, who is the most charismatic and can lead in a way that gets people to follow, especially independent voters, everyone who doesn't like Donald Trump will coalesce around them.